Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Braga in Portugal is Mariana Trigo. Hi, Mariana. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Vasco. Thank you for the invite. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope people will like what I have to say.
Absolutely. Mariana's got a unique path to share with us. She started in biology, then to retail, and then to IT, in a path to search for the purpose and feeling of belonging. She helps development teams to reach their full potential by improving processes, people, and her favorite time is retrospective time, probably connected with her need to constantly get out of her comfort zone, as her path indicates. So, Mariana, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
So, as you were saying, my path is a little bit different from the usual. I started by studying biology, which was my biggest passion, and I thought I was really going to work on that field. But then I found out it was not really what I wanted to become as a professional. I really wanted to have a team and see my product on the market being used by people. So I started going to retail. I started working in a big retailer company in Portugal for almost 2 years, more or less, basically negotiating with suppliers, defining the range of products that we would sell on the stores. And after 2 years, I was not that happy with the career I had, with the life I was taking. So I stopped for a bit, for almost 6 months. I went traveling to Asia, that cliche of the gap year, a little shorter than I was expecting. When I came back to Portugal, I didn't have really a defined idea of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something I really enjoyed, but I really had no idea what that was. Suddenly, I was searching, like you search on LinkedIn today, for job opportunities, for what areas are companies looking for nowadays. And I found a small business here in Braga, which was a private company, similar to an incubator of startups. And there was one person there that was helping young people to define which were their next steps in their career, in their professional careers. And I booked a simple interview with him. I explained him my background, where I had worked, what I wanted for my future. And it was funny because he immediately said, I think IT would be a good fit for you. You're organized, you're focused. So he got up simple characteristics that I had, that he thought it would fit the needs of the IT world back then. This was 2017, so 4 years ago. And almost 2 months later, I remember I was in Holland. He called me saying, look, I have a guy, he has a software company. They work with several clients, including retail. So it was a good fit. And they need someone basically to be a Scrum Master / project manager. It was a little mix because they also wanted someone to take care of the budgeting with the clients and to do a little bridge between the development team and the several clients they had. And so I went to the interview. It was a very small company. I was very scared because I had only worked for big companies. And the environment inside the company, it was like a small family, very transparent, very humble. They used sneakers to go to the office. So for me, it was very strange.
Which in Portugal is out of the usual because, many of our listeners are in Northern Europe and the US, and probably there is a lot more common. But yeah, definitely in Portugal, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's a relaxed atmosphere sign.
For me, it was everything. It was very new and it was very uncomfortable in the beginning because I was not used to being so relaxed in a work environment. I had zero knowledge about Scrum, exactly zero about IT, nothing. So I started looking into YouTube tutorials, a lot of meetups, a lot of workshops, just to gain that vocabulary and what was the process like all the theory. And so September 2017, I started my job as a Scrum Master in the IT world.
Yeah, and learning the terminology is very important, of course, as many of our Scrum Masters will recognize, especially those that have jumped industries and went into different areas. But I guess you have a story to share with us about how sometimes the things don't go as we expect, because today is Fail Monday. So, of course, we want to dive into that kind of story. I don't know if it has anything to do with your first few months or years as a Scrum Master, but we do want to dive into that Mariana, because we believe we can learn a lot from it. And of course, learn from your mistakes so that we don't make them ourselves. So share that story with us, Mariana.
It was exactly in this my first experience. We had a special situation, let's say, where we had a product owner that was also one of our clients and was also technical. So the relationship with the team was really difficult. For example, they were constantly complaining about the requirements not being well defined. They were taking a long time for the planning, and we were constantly trying to improve that. So we were constantly demanding from that product owner slash client slash technical person to improve the requirements, to improve user stories, to improve the acceptance criteria. And that was becoming really, really tiring for everyone. And I thought the team was being too pushy, too demanding with him. So I kind of stepped away and ignored their pains in what come to planning that was taking around 1 day and a half for each sprint instead of 1 hour. And I simply dropped that pain. I simply almost abandoned them.
So tell us what that meant in practice. So I imagine that before this happened, you were sending questions to the client, maybe setting up meetings with the client to try to understand things better. Maybe you set up a few conversations between the client and the team and so on. Maybe that took a long time. I don't know. I'm guessing here. And then at that point, when you made that shift, you said, I'm not going to do this anymore. So what did you do instead?
I was like showing to the team that, look, we are trying as best as we can. It's enough. Let's try to work with what we have now and see if it improves, if you get used to this kind of working together. But it was a big mistake because they just felt abandoned and they felt I was not really listening to their pains. They were very repetitive, yes, but they were true. And they didn't stop feeling that kind of need of having better user stories and better defined requirements. So I remember we had a meeting setting up like what was the Scrum Master role in there. And I really had no idea what else to do. Because as you were saying, I had speak with the clients a lot of times. We schedule several planning sessions, several refinement sessions. So there was nothing else I could imagine back then. So it was a very hard situation for me because first I felt I had not done the enough that they need from me and they felt abandoned. So relationship got a bit weird. But then what did we do? We found out that I needed to speak with the client once again and basically tell him, look, we need to solve this. You need to improve your relationship with the client. And I will try to push them a bit more into the planning session. So we took one of our developers, one of our senior developers, and he was a lot more deep into the planning session before doing that with the rest of the team.
Yeah, I can imagine that it can be actually quite tough because the team feeling abandoned may even start to mistrust you as the Scrum Master, right?
Exactly. And I really felt that it was temporary. And then we were able to kind of destroy, let's say, the relationship in order to build it again in another way. And in the end, we ended up trusting more in each other. But during that period, that was like 1 or 2 sprints, things were a bit weird because we almost felt a little bit hurt by each other, right? It's that trust that you're speaking about.
So I imagine that as you struggle through this, of course, the relationship was affected and you were kind of, okay, what do I do? And you said it, right? I didn't know what else to do, right? How did you come to the conclusion that maybe just having that senior developer to come in and do the pre-planning, if you will, right? Before the actual planning with the team would help? Like, how did you come up with that idea? Was it you? Was it the developer? Was it the team?
It was a bit of both, I would say, and also on the client side, because we already had noticed it that the problem inside the team of needing more requirements and more details, it was mainly set up by this developer. He was the one that needed all of that organization, all of those details. And he was also the oldest developer in the team, the one that had the projects for the longer time. So it was basically an automatic thing to pick up the person that had the most experience and the most need and use him to help the rest of the team and to help the product owner and of course the Scrum Master at the same time. It was a natural solution that came up. So, okay, you are the one that need this the most. You will be able to help the team. So you will be dedicating 1 day per sprint to this. And hopefully this will get us in the track that we really want and need.
Absolutely. Well, the thing that you mentioned, I think, is worth highlighting is the idea that the developer who needs the most this level of feedback and detail should be the one taking ownership, right? Because very often in many teams, what happens is that somebody has a need, they express that need, like, we need more details, the acceptance criteria are not clear enough, whatever. But then somebody else goes and does the work. But what you guys did is actually a very good tip for our Scrum Master friends out there, that whoever has the need should be part of the process, because they understand the need in a way that nobody else can understand, right? Like if I were there and I were the one writing the acceptance criteria, I would probably still not write correctly enough or accurate enough or detailed enough for that person, right? So that's actually a great tip, to bring in on board to solve the problem, the person who expresses the problem more often, perhaps even more strongly.
Yeah, and one of the things that I usually use with every team is the suggestion needs to come from the team itself. And when you put one of the guys of the team doing it, it's a lot better than when you are doing it, because usually you are a little bit distance of the rest of the team. If it's one of the guys, they will take it a little bit more in a positive way than if it's the Scrum Master or the product owner. It's always different.
And you get a bonus. They can't blame you for not doing it correctly. Because that's one of the things that very often when I work with Scrum Masters, I try to tell them that, if the solution comes from you and it fails, it's your solution. But if it comes from them, they'll make sure it succeeds because it's their solution.
Of course, exactly. You don't tell them the solution. You make questions till they give you the solution you had already thought before.
Absolutely. That's a great wrap up. Thank you for that, Mariana.
Of course.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.